I don't believe that we should ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government.
Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebs. Joining us today, very special guest, Samourai Wallet. All right, we're diving into the numbers, though. Let's do it.
Number time! Brought to you by Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference celebration party hosted in sunny Miami Beach, Florida. It's April 6th to 9th. That means it's coming up. It's in less than a month, guys. Get your tickets quickly. The speaker list includes President Nayib Bukele of El Salvador, Michael Saylor, Saifedean, Adam Back, Jack Mahler, Senator Cynthia Lummis, Dr. Jordan Peterson. Phil and I are going to be on the panel as well. You can take advantage of the link down below to get 10% off the largest Bitcoin conference tickets ever. Bitcoin 2022!
At the time of this recording, the block height is 728,983. The Bitcoin price, 44,405. Chain rewrite days, 737. Total public lightning capacity, 3,553.85. Moscow time, 22:52. Blocks to the halvening, 111,017. And the Samourai Whirlpool unspent capacity. Samourai Whirlpool is a coin joiner collaborative spend. It is not a mixing service. The unspent capacity is 4,395.17 BTC. Nico, the numbers.
The numbers, bro. Looking good. Numbers. Yeah, man. It's funny. It's funny. We keep getting those Moscow comments, bro. Like,
we do, huh?
There's traitors.
You guys, you don't understand. You need to pay attention.
Moscow time is a meme for sats per dollar. Okay, so when you hear Moscow time, that's what it means. Sats per dollar. It comes from Jack Dorsey meeting with Congress, and he had a block clock in the back. And one of the blue check marks on Twitter was like, "Oh, Jack Dorsey, he's in Russia. He has the Russia time. What's going on?" They obviously just didn't do the research. So it became a meme. That's what it is all about. But anyways, before I get... so anyone that doesn't know, Samourai is actually an AI, right? So it's not an actual human being. They're not human beings. It's an AI. Anyways, let me show a tweet from GG, but he has a very good voice for an AI. Anyways, let's check this out. I thought this was fascinating. I think you guys would, find value in this. GG has some awesome takes. Anyways, let me get to it. He says, while Bitcoin is just information, there are real physical limits that all decentralized systems will run into. One limit is the speed of light, and thus the time window in which consensus can be reached. So for the speed of light to go around the world takes 50 milliseconds. For the speed of light to get to the moon, it takes about 8 minutes, but okay, 10 minutes is fine. It takes information about 42 milliseconds to travel from one end of the Earth to the other. Relativistic effects make global consensus below this time window impossible. Universal time does not exist. This short video explains it well in under 2 minutes. It's not only about light, though. It's about information. No information could propagate faster than the speed of light. This is even true when taking quantum entanglement into account. Bitcoin solves this problem by slowing down time via proof of work. One tick of Bitcoin's internal clock corresponds to 10 minutes of Earth time, which is a large enough time window to find consensus, even if communication is a bit slow or unreliable. The problem of telling time is also what creates real spatial limitations. Unfortunately, we can't bring Bitcoin with us to the stars. We would have to start a new center of hash on a multi-generational starship unless we go. This is pretty badass, really cool. If a project is truly decentralized, it must not have a central keeper of time. Our relativistic universe makes solving this problem extremely difficult, especially in a trustless, open, and adversarial environment. Proof of work is probably the only solution. And I thought that was fascinating. So many things that you just don't think about it, but you're just like, that's obvious, or at least it was to me. Anyways, Samourai, what do you think of that, bro? Do you think it's as interesting as I do? Are you kind of like... I know you're a computer, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting tweet from GG. It's something that has been thought about, I think, for a little bit of time, especially certainly when I got involved in Bitcoin around 2012. We were kind of thinking about in the event of successful space colonization, Moon, Mars, whatever, what would the implications be of bringing Bitcoin with us, right? So I think it's really interesting for Gigi to expand on it as he has done.
Absolutely, but so I have a question for you. So you could definitely take your private keys with you, and you could technically, even though it would take a long time to confirm, you could technically broadcast that transaction to Earth, right? And however long it takes, right? So what does he mean by the center of hash has to move?
I'm not entirely sure what he means by that. What we've always kind of thought about when thinking about this problem, if you thought about it, is the amount of time it takes, as you mentioned, to receive updated information about blocks to your node, and two, how long it takes to broadcast back to Earth, right?
Yep.
As for center of hash, I'm not entirely sure.
There was a Bitcoiner, I'm totally forgetting his name, or I'm going to butcher it. It's like Druva or something like that, who wrote this whole story, or this whole idea essentially of how like Bitcoin, because of the time and everything like that between planets, is too far off, and it would be too difficult, like that it would be feasible that like each planet has its own, has essentially its own proof of work algorithm, and that way all these currencies, I guess, can battle it out.
Yeah,
I heard that. And I heard that, and I kind of heard one around each planet or each system will have its own side chain.
Yes, that.
I think that was. I mean, this is a while ago. I haven't thought about this in some time.
Oh yeah, this was like 2-3 years ago at least.
I think Adam Back also had some interesting ideas around this as well.
Wow, that'd be a fascinating conversation. No, and I actually got it wrong. So I think it's 8 seconds. I'm taking this off the top of my head. It's 8 seconds for light to get to the moon. I think it's about 8 minutes from light to get from the sun to Earth, and I think it's about 5 hours from light to get from the sun to Pluto. Right? So it's so crazy, and light is super fast. So, anyways, it's interesting. Yeah, it would kind of suck to use Bitcoin on Pluto, bro. 5 hour just to send the thing, and then 5 hours back. 10-hour minimum confirmation time. That would frickin' suck.
This is why the side chains.
Yeah, this is true. Sorry, Pluto chain, Mars chain. I don't know. It'd be pretty badass, I think. But I have a question for Samourai. Would those side chains be considered shitcoins?
That's a good question.
I think to a certain segment of the community, anything would be considered a shitcoin.
Would they start fighting with each other? Like, would the people on
chains?
Mars would be like, "We're the real Bitcoin," and Earth is like, "No, we're the real Bitcoin." Like, you think that would plash like interplanetary Bitcoin Twitter?
Interplanetary, yeah. Well, I mean, if it's a sidechain and it all settles on Bitcoin, there's only Bitcoin, right? So that's the only Bitcoin, and the side chains would be their own separate thing. It kind of is interesting to think about the exchange between Pluto coin and Mars coin, and how one goes about that without obviously having to touch the Bitcoin main chain, right? Because then you're introducing all this time involved. So yeah, it's probably a little bit far off to really worry about, but it's interesting.
It is interesting, and I don't think we'll see how this plays
out there.
I mean, I think we'll see somewhat of a Mars thing, maybe. But anyway, nah.
Not if you pay attention to the flat Earth documentaries. No, been there.
All right. I think it's a good time.
Tinfoil hat time. We're done.
Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Fail. Brought to you by Amber App. Check them out, amber.app. Guys, we all got a stack. Why not stack using an app by actual Bitcoiners? Low fees, fair spreads, smart automation. The link is down below.
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
So this is fail related, just because Joe Wiesenthal often has terrible takes. Okay, he is, I believe, the editor-in-chief at Bloomberg. But anyways, let's dive into this ridiculousness. This is from @emergent_BTC. Wiesenthal is going to school Bitcoiners on monetary policy, yet doesn't know how to hold a fork. And don't get me wrong, even Neil Kashkari, okay? Even him, who's the Fed chairman, who's the chair of the Fed for Minneapolis, you can see by the look on his face, he is kind of completely confused by what the hell Joe is trying to do over there.
Well, so you see what's going on, right? These are lizard people trying to pretend they're human beings, and like clearly, if you don't use a fork because you're a lizard, think about it. You see a fork for the first time. You don't know what the fuck that is. That shit looks weird to you. You're like, what is that? Right? So clearly this is what's happening here. You have the lizard people, So you do. You have the lizard people. And in that same vein, right, he's one of the lizard people attempting to school us on Bitcoin. Okay? So here we go. This is his little bio here at Bloomberg. But this is the piece that I'm really interested in. I like having the reputation as the person who is going to get something first, who knows what's going on, who's tireless. Well, let's take a little trip back to it. Yes. Could you go back to the fork picture for a second?
The fork picture.
He clearly has no idea what the fuck is going on. Okay, it's apparent. Phil, why don't you zoom in a little bit to the fork?
Even Neil's confused. Okay.
He look at that. I'll put an arrow. He has no idea what the fuck is going on. That is a flat out lie. That is a fucking lie. Anyways.
Okay. So look, in that same vein, we've got, here we go. This is blockchain news. Joe Wiesenthal, only point of Bitcoin is to do transactions the man doesn't want you to do. Now, we've shown on this show countless amount of times how Bitcoin is empowering people to not be censored and to not be excluded out of the financial system. This was 2019, and he was dead wrong. So again, I go back to this reputation of getting something first. I'm not buying it. And let's take a little trip back to 2016. Here we go. We've got this. I don't see how Bitcoin solves anything for people in Venezuela. Nico, I thought that you would find that particularly interesting.
Yeah,
you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things, right? Dude, if I wanted to send money to my family over there, the only way is Bitcoin, really. That's number one, right? So they're able to receive money or, from overseas. There's no other way. I don't even know if Western Union's available over there, but I know it wasn't at one point when things were a little bit more politically contentious. And number two is the inflation rate there is terrible. So you don't have. It's funny because in the West we buy Bitcoin. We spin up all these narratives in our head, but we have a relatively stable currency compared to the rest of the world. But in Venezuela, you don't have a choice but to find another store of value. People buy washing machines, people buy cars, and those objects are better stores of value than cash and fiat. That's number two. Number three is I actually heard an amazing story from Sultan Bitcoin, and I talk about this all the time, right? Bitcoin gives you two powers. It gives you the power to vote with your wallet and also your feet. What does that mean? That means that when Sultan Bitcoin, he left Venezuela. I don't know if I could tell you where he left to, but he left to another place in South America. I'll say that. He couldn't take his money with him. The only way he could take his money with him was not with the legacy system, but it was with Bitcoin. He was able to cross the border with the entirety of his wealth. So those are all evidence-based things that you could verify yourself. Humanitarian awesomeness of Bitcoin. Like, what other thing could do that? Nothing, right? The legacy system has completely failed us here. And I might add, it has failed us, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of this definitely during the news. It has failed us partly or almost because of the KYC AML system, right? It's a system that says, if you aren't born in a certain location, if you aren't born in a certain country, or if you are born in a certain country, you are deemed unbankable. We can't accept money from that person in that country, right? And it's all under the guise to stop crime, to stop this, to stop that. Look, I think you could stop crime perfectly fine without freezing people's accounts, without stopping people's ability to transact with each other freely. So yeah, man, it's just a completely bad take, but I'm not surprised from a guy that eats food with a fork like that.
Exactly. You know, he's thinking first world problems. He doesn't even see it. And this is funny, right? Because we go back to the original point. He likes to be known for seeing things first. Like, really, bud? You got to be objective. Yeah. Samourai, any thoughts on this before we move to the final part of the fail?
No, I mean, I think Nico hit it on the head there. One thing I will mention is I think the second tweet that you showed, where he mentions that, I think he says that the only use for Bitcoin is for making the transactions the man doesn't want you to make. I agree that that's the central proposition of Bitcoin to me, is being able to make the transactions that they say you can't make. And I think Nico illustrates that with the Venezuelan example of crossing border. That's a very clear example of the transaction that the state doesn't want you to make. The movement, at least, that the state doesn't want you to make, that Bitcoin makes possible. I don't think it's as he put it, the only proposition, but I think that is a central proposition. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, he's making it sound like a bad thing, and that's what I hate, is the framing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I think that, he's so rooted in the legacy world. He's so rooted in that KYC AML system that to him it is a bad thing. To us and myself, or speaking for myself, it's absolutely a positive thing. That's what makes Bitcoin freedom money. Yeah. So I'm in agreement with you guys on this completely. The fork thing is weird as well. You would think someone of his, he's obviously hung out with people who know how to hold forks. Like, I just don't understand it.
He's a lizard. So just to add, yeah, it's definitely not the only proposition. You could use gold. But think about it. If you have, I've heard horror stories of people, hiding their gold.
It's way superior to gold if you're talking about movement, right? Because gold is a pain in the ass to move.
You could use a shitcoin, but the shitcoin gives you a false sense of security, right? You could use a stable coin, but we've also heard stories of Tether or something freezing accounts, which kind of defeats the purpose, right? If you store your wealth in Bitcoin, if you're the only one that has access to that private key, no one's getting their hands on that, right? So I think I misspoke. I should have said it like that. Anyways, Phil, what is the next fail?
All right, let's dive into it. This is going to be a little more security, privacy-centric. Samourai, I don't know if you saw this tweet today, but this was Sovereign Mindset put out this tweet. Sailor says, if you need privacy, use Monero. Andrea says, if you need privacy, use Monero. Saifedean says, Bitcoin fungibility doesn't matter. The space in general is completely capitulating. Freaking incredible. Okay, so Giacomo responded, and I got to tell you, I do love Giacomo's responses. Quite often they're a mix of entertainment and signal. So here we go. He goes, Sailor said hyper-Bitcoinization will help the US dollar. Andrea said people inviting him at conferences after 2020 are murderous, irresponsible nut jobs getting people killed by viruses. Both Sailors and Andrea said that Ethereum scam is legit. People say stupid shit. Okay, so going back to Sovereign Mindset, his tweet. The reason why I chose this for the fail is because of the amount of confusion that there is in the space, depending on who you are, right? Because of course, like, if you're a privacy advocate, I think, like, there's no confusion in your, you know what I mean, in your goal, in your thinking. Like, you're just like, okay, this is exactly my path towards using Bitcoin, and this is what's going on. But the average noob, right? They're looking at this, and I think that they're confused. And I think that that's the whole problem. And we end up like, and of course, right, Bitcoin's decentralized. Everybody can say whatever the hell they want. Everybody can start up a website. Everybody can offer resources, and around we go. But I do think that at some point we have to figure out some way to come to a consensus as to like a, you know, like kind of like a best practices and, like, you know, moving forward, right? I don't know, something. It doesn't have to be agreed upon by a committee. I don't believe in committees. I don't believe in chairs. But I'm just saying, somehow we have to come to a consensus.
It's true. Samurai, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think overall, what sovereign mindset? Is that who it is?
Yeah.
What sovereign mindset is saying is right. I think the gist of what he's saying is that the state of Bitcoin privacy isn't nearly where it should be in terms of where we are in adoption. And as a privacy-focused wallet, as someone who has literally dedicated their lives to building Bitcoin privacy solutions, I have to agree. I think that adoption and pushing for adoption and pushing for scale too early has diverted attention away from protocol development focusing on privacy. And there's a number of reasons for that. And, in 2015, 2016, we have something called the block size wars. And what was actually happening at that time was there was a spam attack going on, filling up blocks, making miner fees go up. Who was initiating the spam attack? Some people think it may have been the big blockers who wanted to advance their narrative that we needed bigger blocks, etc. What the response was from what I would say is our side was a user-activated soft fork that implemented SegWit, which got you slightly larger blocks, but also paved the way for scaling solutions such as Lightning. I think that because no one really realized that a spam attack was going on, there was a perceived urgency for scaling this mass adoption event, and that diverted attention away from Bitcoin privacy on the protocol level, not on the application level. So I think overall, sovereign mindset is saying that. I don't really take much account as to what Saylor says or Andreas or any of that. I focus on what's actually being worked on and what's actually being done. So yeah, I would love to see a broader, larger focus on privacy. I'm sure no one is surprised to hear me say that. And I think in terms of best practices, as you mentioned, or a kind of narrative going forward, I think, users will have to invest time in learning how Bitcoin actually works, right? So a lot of people who have come onto the scene from like 2018 onwards have benefited from a user experience in wallets that have abstracted away a lot of the technical intricacies of interacting with Bitcoin. But the issue with that is, in order to use Bitcoin privately, you have to be aware of those technical intricacies. So you have to understand what a UTXO is. You have to understand how transactions are linked on the blockchain, what a deterministic link is. So that level of education is difficult. But if a Bitcoin user wants to achieve privacy on Bitcoin, they can absolutely do it. It's just a learning curve to it. And this is something that we've tried to tackle this year. We put out a 7-part video series on YouTube. Each video is less than 7 minutes long. So you can go through these 7 videos really quickly, and we'll get you up to speed at a very fundamental level where you need to begin to start using Bitcoin privately.
Bullish. Awesome. Dude.
We're going to need that link later so that we could put it in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
If we remember, we will put it in the show notes. But Phil and I are both thinking about it. But and just to kind of add, I'm not going to say as beautifully put as the AI of Samurai, but I am going to say that just pay attention to the incentives, right? If you look at Saylor, he's the CEO of a public company. He definitely doesn't want to get into the bad graces of the U.S. government.
Absolutely.
And if you look at Andreas took a payday from the Ethereum guy, so he's absolutely going to say that. So yeah, I'm just paying attention to the incentives. Again, I think that a lot of people, I think it's human nature really, kind of create a hero, right? It's like, oh, it's Saylor, oh, it's this, and then there's a very famous saying in Bitcoin: kill your heroes, or don't have any hero. Metaphorically, don't have any
Absolutely.
heroes. Don't have any heroes in Bitcoin, and that's why, right? Human beings are imperfect. There's very strong incentives to let's say not say ethical things, and I think that a lot of people You can't blame them, bro. They're just following their own incentives. Anyways, Phil, do you have any more fails?
That's it.
That's it. Awesome, dude.
What we got?
Bullish. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
The Daily Meme Review.
Brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. It's stories, articles, comics by actual Bitcoiners. This is the artwork for Volume 10. Every volume has different artwork, and it's all by Bitcoiners. They're scarce. There's only 1,000 physical copies made per volume. That means get your print of Citadel 21 today before they run out. All right, first meme is brought to us by Lynn Alden. But my model says, does your model include war? It's so true. It's so true. They
never do.
They never do, bro. Like, the Ukraine hit them out of nowhere. They're like, ah! Okay. Anyways, Bitcoin is worried. Okay, Bitcoin is for enemies, but will achieve the same goal in whatever it infests. Avoid sanctions, economic freedom, Bitcoin, Russia. Very nice. Okay. Here is Marty Bent. This is a legendary thread, by the way, so I'm going to zoom out, and it's a lot easier. So what a Thursday. Senator Lummis tweeting about flare mining in Wyoming. Price flip calls out ESG on a Bitcoin podcast. Prince, sorry. Russia says it will take Bitcoin for gas. Exxon admits it has mining operation on its wells. It's so true. There was so much news yesterday. It was like, taka, 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 taka. Anyways, legendary by Bitcoinator. There's two, really. Nobody in the establishment wanted Uber. No regulator wanted Uber. No taxi driver wanted Uber. Why did Uber win? The people wanted Uber, right? And it's a very famous template. And then here is, politicians, European Central Bank standard. Here is the fiat standard. Here is normies, freedom, the virus, inflation, orange pilled. And here, very good memes. All right, next one is, Naim Bukele posts this. That's a good one. Great. That's a very good one. It's a very good one. All right, next one we have Copper Nixon, which is really Phil. This is Phil's puppet account.
It's not.
For anyone that doesn't know, now you know. When you tell normies who's actually in charge, we run the nodes. Meme pool, fuck you, Greg, and a bunch of do not fuck with us. It's true. Phil, bro, you could just send me the meme, bro. We're friends. You don't have to do that. Anyways, those are some awesome memes. And in honor of our guest today, I'm going to give it a katana. Hey! Did I look like the samurai guy?
He's a little more inconspicuous, but you do.
Very good. Very good.
Should I put on the hood? Is that it?
I think it's the hood. You also kind of need the mask, but not the cuck mask, the proper mask.
Hey, samurai! Okay, anyways. Phil, what would you give those memes?
That was a great score, by the way.
I thought I was going to give it like a regular score, and then I was like, bro, I have a fucking katana. Hell no. It's not a real katana. It's like a little fake one. But it wouldn't fit in the camera if it was a real one. It'd be like, huh. So it gets the
probably
job
end
done.
up poking the camera.
Gets the job done. Phil.
All right, well, look. I am going with this very special connector that I am never going to use, but that I keep in my kit because you never know when you're going to need this audio connector.
They fuck you so hard on airplanes, bro. I don't know why they do that. Why do they do that? Why?
And I'm never going to throw it out. That's the problem. This is like one of those things, right? Like the random screw that somebody has like in a bowl or a vase. They can't throw it out because they know that once they throw it out, they're going to figure out where it went.
Yeah.
And now that thing is ruined.
Yeah, dude, one day, it will be the year 2050 and they'll still have those fucking plugs, dude. They'll still have those plugs. So anyways, Samurai, what would you give those memes?
Let's see. I have a Swiss Army knife on my desk, so that's what those memes get.
Woo! Awesome score. Swiss Army knife.
Multi-tool. I like that.
A samurai knife. A random airplane adapter thingy majigger from Phil. Anyways, guys, we want to know if you agree with our scores, you disagree. Let us know down in the comment section. Comment. And of course, make sure to subscribe to us on alternative video platforms like Rumble.com, and our personal favorite, BitcoinTV.com. They don't censor there because it's Bitcoin TV. And of course, make sure to join our Telegram group and link us some dank Bitcoin memes to review. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News.
Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the famous 3D printed Bitcoin art sculpture opens up. You put your favorite hardware wallet in there. You could also get this in any custom color your heart desires. You want to make the white orange? You could do that, but only on CryptoCloaks.com. This just happens to be the colors of El Salvador, and you can take advantage of the link down below to get 5% off anything on the store, CryptoCloaks.com. As you guys know, I'll give you a quick recap, and I'll also preface this as well. So first, I'm going to start off with, we don't support any criminal activity. We don't, advocate for it at all. However, big however, we are advocates for people being able to transact with each other freely. And what tends to happen is that it's a very slippery slope. Once you start censoring transactions, it does not end, right? And I think, unfortunately, this is the route that Wasabi is. They're going to start with, blacklisting certain addresses, but who gets to decide what address is blacklisted or not, right? Is it an approved service by the U.S. government? It's like, it could be captured in so many ways, right? So that's the problem, right? That's how it started in the United States, right? The Bank Secrecy Act of 1971. Look at where we are today. Look how much the legacy system limits you. And that is, it started with good intentions. It started with, it's only for criminals, but it just kept expanding. Then it's the Patriot Act. Then it's terrorism. Then it's like everybody. Now it's like the Treasury wanted to pass every $600 transaction. It had to be reported to the Treasury. When they started that in the Bank Secrecy Act in 1971, it was every $10,000 transaction needed to be reported. However, if you adjust for inflation, that was about $70,000 US dollars back then, right? So they just keep squeezing, right? Which is inevitable. And let me make you an analogy with something that isn't money related. It's same with freedom of speech. We told you that when they started censoring, there was going to be a very slippery slope, and there would be no end to what they started censoring. We told you that. 6 months later, they took off the President of the United States off Twitter. They deplatformed him. And now they're taking on predominant conservatives like Ben Shapiro. Not Ben Shapiro. Like Charlie Kirk, right? The Babylon Bee, right? For, some political thoughts that they had, right? So it's a very slippery slope when you're censoring. And you could say that. And you could also say, I don't advocate or support crime. Those two things could be true at the same time. And another thing, Bitcoin's a public ledger. So I also agree that, if you're a cop or you're a law enforcement agency, you could still catch your criminal without censoring their transaction. You could still, two things could be true at the same time, as much as they would like you to believe otherwise, right? So now that I got the preface out of the way, right, let's get to it. This is Wasabi, right? Wasabi Wallet parent company explains decision to censor Bitcoin transaction. There is no explanation for this. I just told you why. This is unexcusable. This is an attack on Bitcoin. That is what you're doing. You are trying to change it. That is what you're doing. You're trying to placate to the system. It's a system of exclusion. It's a system that deems half the world unbankable. That is what you are doing. This is a very slippery slope. This is how it starts. Okay, you cannot bargain with these people, which is why we are so hell-bent on this. Remember when this came out, it was very difficult for us because we did have a good relationship with Wasabi Wallet. And then when this did they totally crossed the line, and it's totally unacceptable. You are normalizing a system that excludes half the planet. It deems them unbankable. And I think, and I know Phil does as well, because we talked about this previously, is unacceptable. Anyways, the article goes on to say, privacy-focused Bitcoin wallet Wasabi Wallet announced on Sunday it would start preventing certain unspent transactions from joining its CoinJoin rounds, sparking surprise and rebellion on Twitter as users wondered why the project would make a decision supposedly contrarian to the uncensorable ethos of Bitcoin. However, the decision will only be enforced by Wasabi's default. Wasabi's default coordinator, a centralized entity tasked with building the CoinJoin transaction with the inputs provided by Wasabi users that is run by the company behind the Wasabi project, ZK Snarks. The ZK Snarks coordinator will start refusing certain UTXOs from registering the CoinJoins, Wasabi tweeted on Sunday. The surprising move led to many to believe that the regulatory pressure must have been applied to compel the company to take such an unpopular route. However, ZK Snarks co-founder and CEO Balant Harmont told Bitcoin Magazine that the decision to prevent some users from leveraging the Wasabi for their privacy needs was a proactive one, as there was no current legislation obliging them to do so. Now, here's the thing. You cannot bargain with these people. They're going to do it anyways. People started to identify Wasabi with illicit activities and actors, and we wanted to differentiate ourselves from these players in the space, Hamad said, adding that the route taken on Sunday was ZK Snark's solution to enforce it. Hamad, so you want some central planning, baby. Hamad explained that the company doesn't want to be associated with criminal activity of any kind, adding that multiple reports over the past year linked hacking, money launderers, and other nefarious actors with Wasabi and ZK Snarks have in part prompted the move, as such an angle hurts the brand's image. Wasabi is for the people to preserve their privacy and not hiding illicit activities. Interesting. Anyways, so why did they do this? They did this as a reaction. We know that Wasabi, when they caught the Bitfinex guys and I don't know if the government did this on purpose or not. I have no idea. But it was implicated that the Bitfinex hackers, the couple, used Wasabi as part of one of their mixing services. And then you have an article from, we use these guys all the time, main propaganda, propaganda arm, right? Financial Times, New York Times, The Guardian. This is one of them. This is one of the big guys. It says, the UK's National Crime Agency has called for the regulation of sophisticated mixing technology used by criminals to avoid detection when laundering money through cryptocurrency. So I have a bunch, now that I went through all of that so you guys understand what we're going to talk about, I'm going to hit Samourai with first question, which is, what are you going to do when the inevitable ban hammer comes, bro?
The inevitable ban hammer where?
Dude, okay, when nation states, fiat governments, declare mixing services illegal.
Well, mixing services already are largely illegal.
CoinJoin. I apologize. CoinJoin.
CoinJoin. Well, if they were to make CoinJoin illegal, they would have to go after actual individuals, because it's only individuals that are making these CoinJoins.
So I'm going to use.
It's not a coordinator who's doing it.
I'm going to rebuttal you. I'm going to use one of Satoshi's own quotes. Right? It says centralized entities are easy to metaphorically cut the head off. Right? You guys are a centralized entity. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, we don't have a registered entity anywhere. We're diverse around the globe. We've done our best to use and remain NIMS. Any hosting, any servers, anything like that, is domains. That's all paid with Bitcoin and not associated to identities. But I think the point of the gist of what you're saying is, if a government decides that what we're doing is illegal, then what are we going to do about it?
Yes.
And it's a nuanced answer. It depends on which government, first of all. Is it a government that we even care about what they have to say? Is it a government that could squeeze us?
Let's address the boogeyman, right? The U.S. government.
Well, there's very little U.S. presence in Samourai, first of all. If the U.S. government decided to make what we were doing illegal, there's nothing that they could do to make publishing software illegal. That's protected speech. So we would still have the ability to publish software. If we were unable to offer a coordinated CoinJoin service like we do today, without implementing a blacklist or implementing KYC, then we have a legal team on retainer. We would fight that decision. We would get a court involved to determine whether that's constitutional at all. And we would spend the money to do so because we find it to be a human interest. And two, if we were unsuccessful in such a thing, we would shut down doing that service. It's as simple as that. We're not going to become a front end for surveillance, which is what Wasabi has chosen to do. So 2 points on the Wasabi thing.
No, I'll get to that. But
Okay,
I want to riff on this a little bit. So could you also define what is the difference? Because I think a lot of people are going to get caught in the weeds. What is the difference between a mixing service and a coin join?
Yeah, sure. So a mixing service implies that custody is being given up by the person looking to mix their coin. So traditionally, what a coin mixer did was you sent them Bitcoin, and they sent you back unconnected Bitcoin. Right now, there's two things that are happening here. One is you are giving up custody of your Bitcoin, so you are sending it away, giving it to someone else. That someone else is then doing something and giving you unconnected Bitcoin back, hopefully. Right, so there's an element of trust there. You have to hope that they're going to give you that Bitcoin back. That is pretty clear cut, and at least in the U.S. and pretty much all other first world countries, that's a money transmission. That person who took your funds is a money transmitter under most law, and what they've done is money launder. That's illegal. And there was the FCA, the Financial Times article references one of these custodial mixing services called Helix, where the guy was doing exactly that, taking people's Bitcoin and sending them Bitcoin back. And an even greater, spite, I guess, actually advertising the service as a money laundering service. He used those words exactly. He made it incredibly easy for the prosecution to to get a conviction on money laundering. But anyway, that is textbook definition of money transmission. The difference between CoinJoin is no custody transfer ever occurs. We never take custody of users' funds. Users are essentially making a transaction to themselves.
And just facilitating the software to enable that.
Right. We've created software to enable that. The coordinator will build a transaction based off of signed inputs from the wallets, right? So in order to sign an input, you need the private key. We can't do that. That has to be done by the wallet, the user, the individual. So that's why I said earlier, if they wanted to make CoinJoin illegal, it wouldn't really work at the service provider level because, in fact, we've innovated on coordinator-free coin joins. So you and me could do a coin join together where there's no coordinator involved at all. So they would have to make the actual individual act of coin joining illegal, and to date, nothing like that has been, even proposed. I think the legal situation of coordinated coin joins is very clear. Our lawyers think it's very clear. There's absolutely zero anything illegal about it from a coordination level, and absolutely zero illegal about it from a user's perspective. It's just a different type of send transaction is really what it is.
And your software is open source, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like they would have to, interesting, very interesting. Let's see how this plays out. So let's address the elephant in the room. What does Samourai think of Wasabi? We made Phil and I made our thoughts or how we feel about this very clear. So what do you guys feel about this? Do you guys feel the same way? I'm sure you're going to elaborate a little bit more. So,
I think everyone was shocked when the news broke that Wasabi was going to implement blacklists. So that was the first thing that broke, right? And that was with a incredibly cryptic tweet on Twitter from the Wasabi account. Like, it was the weirdest way of communicating with their users, right? So they let that sit there, though, for a couple, at least a day. It might have been more than a day. Now, I had some idea of what this was in relation to because the Financial Times reached out to us for a statement a few days before they published. So we did provide a statement to them. I don't know if you guys read that or have that. Okay. So I'll just say we provided a statement. when I saw the Wasabi tweet, I kind of had the idea that, okay, this is something to do with the article that's coming out. Maybe they got spooked or something, but still super shocking, absolutely shocking. So let that sit there. Then if you're keeping an eye on things in their Telegram and on Twitter, the devs were kind of making it seem like their hand was forced, like they had no choice in this. You know, they were coerced in some way that, you know, whatever. And they let that sit out there for a while. And then this article drops from the CEO saying, no, this was a proactive measure. This was, you know, our decision as a company to start censoring. And we're going to hire chain surveillance firms to implement this policy. So all of these statements are incredibly shocking. You know, I don't think I know they're trying to spin it, but I don't think Bitcoin users are buying it. For a privacy wallet to become a front end for chain surveillance is, I just can't even wrap my head around it.
Sorry to interrupt you, and I'll say it this way: they've become an enforcement arm of the state. That's the
absolutely,
way that I see it.
Absolutely right. I mean, I don't know if you guys were aware of the mini controversy around AOPP, which was the Swiss government has the requirement for you to prove ownership of a Bitcoin address. So a bunch of wallets were making it very easy to fulfill that compliance step, right?
Yes,
and
covered Trezor.
Yeah, right. It was Trezor. It was a bunch of wallets, you know. And on the surface level, I understand why they didn't really think about it and say, oh, that is an enforcement mechanism of the state. They said, oh, it's a usability increase, and it will make it quicker and easier for our users. Great, let's do that. We had the complete opposite approach and reaction to us. And as Nico just put it beautifully, it's an enforcement element of of state compliance coming from free and open source Bitcoin software developers. It's completely shocking. It completely makes no sense. And it's the fact that it makes it extra insulting is that there was no compulsion by any state, by any law, by any regulation for them to do this. Yeah. What I see it as is the centralized entity of ZK Snacks, which runs Wasabi and runs a coordinator, is building a regulatory moat around itself. Mm-hmm. They are the largest CoinJoin coordination service by volume. They have a large number of users, and they have competition from us and from Join Market coming in for them, right? There's already serious issues with Wasabi mixed composition, but we're not going to get into that. This is purely now a regulatory play because they know that Join Market can't comply with anything like this. It's a decentralized coordination, and they know that we're not going to comply with anything like this. So they're building this moat around themselves. They're showing the regulators like, hey, this is the framework. We're going to build out the regulatory framework of how this can work. And 2, 3, 4 years down the line, I guarantee you they're going to be the ones lobbying the EU, which is where they're based. They're based in Hungary, so they're regulated by the EU. They're going to be lobbying the EU in the next money laundering directive to regulate CoinJoins in law in this way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then it's like, then you have an extension of the existing system. Then this goes back to, again, two things could be true, right? Because I know how a lot of people are going to try to spin it. It's like, oh, you're advocating for crime. No, right? Censoring transactions is wrong, and crime is wrong. Two things could be true, right?
Absolutely.
So, and the issue for that, right, is kind of like freedom of speech, right? Freedom of speech, especially in the United States, you notice that there's no there's no person that gets to decide what is hate speech and what isn't hate speech. There's a reason for that, because the person that gets to decide what is hate speech and what isn't hate speech becomes a tyrant. So the founding fathers are just like, it's going to have to be free speech, and then let the free market of ideas kind of figure out what is okay, what is not. Mm-hmm. Money is a form of speech, right? Without a doubt, right? And absolutely. Bitcoin has the same ethos. It works with the same principles. And that's why it's called the money of enemies, right? That's why you can't censor a Bitcoin trend, even if you think it belongs to the worst criminal. But again, that's all from your perspective. From another person's perspective, right? Maybe that person isn't a criminal. And what are the benefits of that? The benefits of that is, if I'm from Venezuela, this is what we just talked about. Phil just picked up a great example during the fail. And I'm from Venezuela and I'm trying to move my money abroad. If I'm a regulator in the United States, I'm looking at that, I'm like, no, that person's a criminal. We can't take that risk. But from the perspective of that Venezuelan, right, he could take his money, his wealth with him. Right? So again, it's a very complicated topic, but we advocate, we're very strong advocates for, I don't think any human being or government or institution or bureaucracy should have the power to get to decide who is and who is not entitled to money. And here, it starts with good intentions. It's just criminals for now. But down the road, you don't think governments and bureaucrats are going to put pressure to, hey, those Venezuelans, you can't trust them. They're money laundering. Who's to say in a couple years, 5, 10 years, right, when more regulatory pressure comes on Bitcoin, which is inevitable, who's to say that it's not going to, now Venezuelans can't use Wasabi. Now, if you're from a certain IP, you can't use Wasabi. That's the slippery slope of censorship. And that's what you're enabling, especially if you placate the state. Phil, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just rules without rulers, right? That's exactly what we're advocating for. And also, at the same time, oh, damn it. I forgot.
God damn it, Phil.
Damn it.
God damn it, Phil.
I hate it when that happens.
All right, so Phil couldn't remember what he was going to say. I hope you guys found this valuable. And just to end this one more time, because I know how a lot of people are going to spin this, you could be for no one censoring transactions and you could be against crime at the same time. Both things could be true, okay? Just leaving it at that. But anyways, Phil, there was a website by Plebe. Why don't you tell everybody?
Websites by plebes or plebs. Brought to you by CipherSafe. Check them out. CipherSafe.io. Guys, it's the most important thing. We have no choice but to store our seed. Why not store your seed in the best place, the Cipher Wheel or the all-new Cipher Grid? They both come with a tamper-resistant wire, but the Cipher Grid also comes with a punch tool. All right, so we've got a cool website by plebs, right? It's bitcoinblockhalf.com. I don't believe we've ever shown this one before. It's going to be in the show notes. Take a look. You could see the time that it's going to be to the, halvening date, to the minute, to the second. Like, take a look at that. That's pretty cool. This is really awesome. The Bitcoin inflation versus time. I'm definitely a fan of this chart. Unlike the shitcoin ETH chart we showed yesterday, this one is actually accurate and actually shows what really happens to the Bitcoin emission over time. And because it's hard capped, you're not going to see any more, and there's no trickery. Anyways, the link is down below. It's a great little site, and I encourage everyone to check it out. Anyways, don't forget to check us out on audio-only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And if you want to stream us sats, fountain.fm.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, before we go, I want to give a very special shout out to our awesome hoodie sponsor. Phil and I wear them every day. Represent LTD or rephard.com. And you can take advantage of the link down below for 10% off anything off the rephard.com store. I also want to give a very special shout out to the first AI that came on the show, Samourai Wallet, and you can go give them a follow at Samourai Wallet on Twitter, SamuraiWallet.com. They keep your transactions private, they mask your identity, and they keep your funds secure. Definitely go check them out. Anyways, guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed our show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the pleb perspective and the catastrophic fails, definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin, and we will see you Monday, guys, for a brand new episode.
Bitcoin privacy matters. You heard the samurai. There are no shortcuts.